I have wild dreams, but even in those dreams, I didn't see myself having such a big feature in Success Magazine. So it was like, holy cow.
Hello, Empower Nation. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. I'm your host, Angela Duncan, speaker, best-selling author, serial entrepreneur. We talk all things money and business. Today's episode, I get to interview Cassandra Worthy. She was recently published in Success Magazine. She is the founder of Change Enthusiasm. We're going to talk about her corporate background, how to step into curiosity. We're going to talk about a couple of money tips and how she prepares for the amazing speaking that she does today. Cassandra, welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. How are you today?
I'm chilling. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes. So before we start off, I have to know when your article got published in Success Magazine and you went and saw it in person, because I did see your post on LinkedIn about it. Tell me about that experience. I would love to know.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And this is what I said on my post. I left my corporate gig about 6 years ago, and I have wild dreams, but even in those dreams, I didn't see myself having such a big feature in Success Magazine. So it was like, holy cow, I'm doing something and people are taking notice. And so there was a lot of that feeling of excitement. But then it was also the feeling of, okay, this is a really cool high, and now I'm going to get back into the grind. Just because I'm on the pages of success doesn't mean things are suddenly going to be super easy. What I mean? So it was a very nice recognition. I'm very, very grateful for it. But it means I just got more work to do.
Yep. Keep charging ahead. This is a podcast about money and about being in business. I would love for you to kind of talk first and give the audience maybe some tips and ideas, what your thoughts are about money, how we can, create more income for ourselves, and just what you've learned along the way.
Sure. I would say that probably the biggest lesson that I've learned is the power of investing in you. I had the great opportunity of working in Berkshire Hathaway. And so I got a lot of exposure to Warren, his thought leadership. And I came across, that quote from him, the greatest investment you can make is in yourself. And I kind of always knew that intuitively, but to see it written out and to hear him live it and the importance of that, it's like, yes, that is the best investment that you can make. And it was living that belief that has gotten me on my journey of entrepreneurship and helping me find through curiosity what I've become so passionate about and what I identify as my purpose. So I'd say number one, foundationally, invest in you and that little bit of intuition, that little bit of curiosity that you have about how you could be sharing your gifts, how you could be exploring your talents a little bit more, getting to know you a little bit better, whether it's a training, whether it's, reading a new book, maybe it's being on a podcast, listening to podcasts, going back to university, somehow, some way, invest in you to nurture and understand what are those skills, what are those gifts that only uniquely you can bring. Because I believe all of our work is to discover what that is and then share it as brightly and as fully with the world as you can.
Love that. And you have a lot of energy behind what you're saying. So I feel like you're not only teaching it, feeling it, but you're living it every day too.
Yeah, I strive to. And I'm so grateful that I feel that the work that I do is truly my purpose, like what I'm meant to do. And my journey was really anchored in the study of Ikigai, which is a Japanese concept. They don't really have language for the word retirement, like what we talk about here in the US. Ikigai is about aligning your talent, your natural gifts, the things that you get lit up about, that you enjoy doing, the things that the world needs. So solving problems that the world needs solves, and then money. And when I started exploring Ikigai, and it's a Venn diagram. So I'm a chemical engineer. I love anything that can be explained in a Venn diagram. But as I was pursuing it, it's like, let me get these three, my talent, what lights me up, and solving a problem. Let me get those right. And as soon as I got those aligned, the money came.
Mhm.
So I started in my work and I didn't think about, ooh, I want to build a multi-million-dollar company. It's like, no, there's something in me that I'm supposed to be giving to the world. I need to figure out what that is. And then I need to start sharing it. And let me align these three things and just trust money's energy. Money will flow. The energy will flow. And I carry this belief that I will always have the resources that are required for me to do the work that I'm supposed to do in the world. And so I have that trust. And having that mindset of infinite abundance, I feel that it's my birthright. It allows me to walk the way that I do in this world and to do the work that I do in this world every day.
Love that. So you mentioned you came from corporate America.
I
You're
did.
now a business owner. When did you know that that time was right for you?
Oh, golly. So I always had this intuition and this whisper that there was something different that I was supposed to be doing with my talents and my skills. But early on in corporate, I was having a blast, right? I love solving complex problems. I love traveling the world. I worked at Procter and Gamble for many, many years. That afforded me the ability to travel, to solve these complex problems, to design products that I then saw on shelves that I could tell my friends and family about what I did to help that come to fruition. So it was really, really exciting. And then, I was having a very, very flourishing professional career. I had a dual career that I was doing in parallel, and that was my drinking career. So that was also flourishing, gratefully at the same time. And it wasn't until I said yes to my alcoholism and stepped fully into sobriety that intuition that I had been hearing for years became a shout. And I couldn't ignore it. And so I started to explore, what is this thing? What am I supposed to be doing? Well, how can I be sharing gifts in a bigger and better way? Curiosity, stepping one foot over the other, landed me on a stage, talking about something that was born from my pain in corporate, all the change that I had gone through, the big multi-billion-dollar acquisitions, that emotional energy. And being on that stage, talking about this thing I had invented, I was lit up. And I knew, okay, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I built what I thought was just going to be a speaking business on the side of my corporate life for about a year and a half. And it got to the point where I had more keynote engagement bookings than I had vacation days. And so that meant, as I was stepping one foot over the other, curiosity, my next step was I have to leave corporate as I've known it, and I have to step into this fully. It's time. And so that for me was when it was right. And it wasn't at the time some massive, huge leap. It was just the next step, because it's something that I had been building and nurturing and gotten all these signals, and I knew it in my heart, and I felt the intuition, the energy of my life was pulling me in that direction. And so I just had to keep stepping.
Love that. And you've said the word curiosity a couple of times. I just want to note that because, as a parent, sometimes we have children that are very curious and we don't allow them to step into that curiosity. And so this is why I love podcasting, because I'm super curious. I ask tons of questions and I got tired of people telling me to be quiet, right? So curiosity, stepping into that curiosity, that's a huge takeaway for me right there.
Oh, I love it. And thank you so much for stepping into your own curiosity and sharing this incredible platform and these conversations with the world. I think it's one of the most powerful skills that we can flex. And I think that it's the most important ingredient as we think about empathetic leadership, which I think is going to be paramount as we progress in the next decade and beyond, given the rate at which the world is evolving.
Yes. All right. So change enthusiasm. When you're thinking about like, I'm launching a company, I'm going to do this. This is what it looks like in my head. I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes coming up with a name, like how do we name it? How do we tell people what it is? I would love for you to talk about how you went through that process, and enthusiasm, such a powerful word. Talk about that with.
Totally. So I was lucky to have mentors very, very early on when I was starting, again, what I thought was just going to be a speaking business. It's now evolved into this, multi-million-dollar leadership development and consulting company. But I knew like I wanted to speak about my pain points. I knew that had to do with change. I knew that it had to do with embracing the emotions of change. And so I had mentors that I was kind of sharing all of this with, and they were like, okay, let's put it in a framework, like create the mental framework of what this practice is. And then I was like, okay, well, now I have to name it. I have to create this unique IP. I was like, okay, I Google change agent is everywhere. You Google change agent, so many hits. Change optimist and change optimism had a few hits as well. Then I was like, okay, what could this be? What could this be? And I started thinking about all of the compliments that I had gotten, all of the gratitude that I'd gotten for the unique value that I bring in the work that I do and when I step into the room, and enthusiasm, energy just kept popping. You're so enthusiastic. You have so much energy, this light that beams from you. It's like, okay, enthusiasm. What about change enthusiasm? Googled it. There was one hit. There was one hit for change enthusiasm. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is my space. This is what I will own. So over the next few weeks, I trademarked that. And then that became the name of this mental framework and has since become the anchor in all of our IP at Change Enthusiasm Global. And so it was just trying to understand, how can I differentiate what I'm bringing, a unique space that I'm carving out, and then understand what is that white space and how can I name it? So it was a lot of Google searching.
Yeah, that's a great pro tip though. Make sure you're, Google kind of what you're thinking about, and then the trademark, super important. I definitely did that with Empower Her Money.
Yes, and that's so good, by the way. It's such a good name. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. You're also a best-selling author. A lot of people, I think, say, I want to write a book. It's going to be so difficult. Maybe I'll change the world. Maybe I don't. Why did you decide to write a book?
Yeah, so for me, first, Change Enthusiasm was an idea. And then that idea became a keynote message. And so I started delivering that keynote message all over. And then I started to get pull from my clients. Do you have a book? Do you have a book? When you come to this conference, we want to be able to give a gift to our audience. Do you have books? And I'm like, I don't have a book, but I should write a book. The mentor that I had mentioned previously was actually the president and CEO of Hay House, Reed Tracy. And so I came to Reed and I said, Reed, I'm getting a lot of pull for a book. I think I have one in me. I think that I want to bring this concept of change enthusiasm out of the conceptual and into the practical. And I think I can write a really compelling book about it. What are your thoughts? He's like, okay, let's see what, it's nonfiction. So give me a few chapters. I'll take it to my acquisition team and let's do this. And so I was able to get a book deal, and I signed that book deal March of 2020. We all know what happened in March of 2020.
Yes.
Not the best time to sign a book deal, but as it turned out, it actually was for me. I found that it was serendipitous because what I was writing, this idea of harnessing the power of emotion to allow the fear and the frustration to signal us into our greatest moments of opportunity, and then have ourselves in that seat of agency, the seat of choice. It's up to us to choose how we navigate, how we experience change. All of the concepts, the ideas, the exercises, the stories, it's all things that I was living for the 8 months that it took me to write it. And so it's like I was getting up every day, putting these things into practice as I was trying to rebuild kind of my speaking practice in the wake of the pandemic. And I was able to write things in a very real, visceral way because I was personally using them to stand up my speaking business. And so for me, it was incredible timing. It certainly was not easy, but it was the exact right timing for me to put that book together. And I'm so grateful for what it's become, and for my entire team at Hay House and my editor, Melanie, just incredible. And I'm so, grateful for the work.
Yeah, timing. You could definitely. I mean, and I think the timing was great too, because by the time it came out, we're getting through COVID. It was definitely a message that the world needed to hear.
Totally. It hit shelves in August of 2021. And the growth has just been incredible. And now, yes, I get to bring it to my audiences. It is like the keystone of our Change Growth Accelerator program. So what we deliver from the company. And I've built this company off of the IP, the ideas that are all shared in the book.
Yeah. And I do think that when I go to conferences and I watch like incredible speakers like yourself, you're very enthusiastic. Sometimes the audience leaves and they're thinking, okay, what now? But having that book or getting the book afterwards to be able to continue to learn about what you're teaching I think is just a huge value add to a lot of people that are looking for what you're delivering in that moment.
For sure. And for me, it's so important because what I teach is a mindset. And it's not something that you can become expert at just by listening to a 60-minute keynote, no matter how much energy I bring to the stage, right? It is a practice. And so that's what the book holds. It's all these exercises, it's these case studies, it's these other success stories. How do you put it into practice? How do you allow your emotional energy to flow? How do you increase your emotional self-awareness? How do you work through what we call a perspectives wheel, which is one of the tools that we use in our CTAs? How do you go through the opportunity that a really difficult change is presenting? And then what are those things that you can use to power your choices moving forward? So it's very practical. And that was the intention behind it. I want it to be like a playbook to put this mindset into practice day after day across any change, any aspect of life.
Now, for the listeners that perhaps haven't had the opportunity to speak on stages, I understand the amount of work that goes behind it, but I would love to hear your perspective when you're getting ready for your talk. You know what your audience is going to look like. What kind of work behind the scenes is happening before you deliver your message?
Totally. So let me start from the very beginning. And my very first keynote that I delivered, which was actually back at Procter & Gamble. I had since left, but I was, using my network. Start from where you are. So my first paid engagement was back with Procter. I landed about 5 months before I actually had to deliver it. And I was like, okay, I've just landed this keynote. I got to write it. I got to write it. And so I wrote out the keynote, and I used this method where every time I had comedy, I'd put it in different font. Whenever I was telling a story, I'd put it in different font so that I could see the structure of the keynote to make sure I had the right level of audience engagement. I'm sprinkling in humor at the right places. When am I telling my stories? When am I doing supporting points? All those things, right? So structuring out the message. And then I knew that when I got on that stage, it needed to feel to the audience like I had already delivered the keynote hundreds of times. And that I'm able to engage and interact with the audience because I know the words, I know the message, and now I can be in flow with my audience. And so that's what I did. I delivered that keynote in my kitchen, to the backyard, to squirrels and to rabbits. They were my audience, and trees, for months. And I probably did that keynote over 200 times in my kitchen, and driving back and forth to my full-time corporate gig at the time, just saying it over and over. And by the time I hit the stage, it was in my subconscious. It was in my memory, and I could engage and I could be in flow, and it was the absolute best feeling. And so now the preparation is the confidence and trust that I know the words, I know the message, and I can be in flow with my audience. And so there are many opportunities because I do a lot of interactive, prompts and engagement with the audience, and I can then riff with them and kind of go a little bit off kind of the standard keynote because I can always find my place. I always know it. And so that's kind of the mental preparation. And then also, I love to have quiet time just before a keynote delivery. I know every speaker is a little bit different. I have a friend of mine who wants to be talking to her friends as she's stepping onto the stage and then starting to talk to the audience. I am not that way. Give me at least 15 minutes of quiet time because I need to get in the zone. I need to get in my zone. And then you give it all, I'm giving all my energy. And then afterwards, when I'm finally back in the hotel room, I have to have time to replenish. And I like to go within, and I like to journal, and I like to reflect, and I like to keep quiet because it's an energy game. And it's about maintaining and sustaining that energy so that you can give it every single time on the stage.
Do you watch your keynotes after to see what
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always learning, continual learning. And that's practicing what I teach, right? And change enthusiasm, continual evolution. So I do watch my keynotes back. It's become easier and easier to do that the years that I've been doing it. But absolutely, I'm looking for ways to perfect, things to tweak. I love getting feedback from audience members. I go out and I chat with them afterwards, what resonated, what didn't. So I know how to continue to sculpt and customize as I move from client to client.
Yeah, because when you're on that stage, you're serving that audience. And so I love that approach because you're watching what you did. So you're learning from yourself. You're constantly evolving and changing to make it better for the audience. And so I'm the same way with podcasts. I know after an interview what I did wrong, but I will go back and listen to it and then think about internally, how do I change this to make it better for the audience next time? So I love how much preparation that you're putting into it.
For sure. Yeah, it's important.
So what's next for you?
Oh man, what's next is continuing to grow Change Enthusiasm Global. We're growing our team. The team has tripled, more than tripled over the past year. We just are about to launch our community of certified practitioners around the world. So we're going to launch that in the winter. We've opened up our Change Growth Accelerator, how you can achieve your certified credential to the public. For several months, it was just for our enterprise clients, but now it's open to the world. And so community has been a big aspect of that, because in change, we want folks to know that you're not alone. And a lot of what the brand stands for is empathy, that you're not alone. When you go through change and it's really difficult, you have support and the resources, the tools, and the individuals, these vessels of light that are here to listen and here to support you. And so excited for that community launch and continue to grow, delighting more clients, and now delighting the full public and allowing them to get their practitioner credential.
Gotcha. All right, 2 money questions. One, piece of money advice. What would you give?
Oh man, money is energy. Money flows, money comes in, money comes out. I will say understanding money as energy has been really important for me, because it's allowed me to maintain my infinite abundant mindset as opposed to hoarding. And I feel like when you hoard the energy, you're keeping it stagnant and not allowing it to flow. And so in many aspects, I do understand that there's a flow, but I also understand about smart investing. And that's because of the people that I've surrounded myself with in my professional career, because I didn't grow up with money. My family certainly didn't have much money when I was growing up. And so it's something that I've had to learn. And probably the biggest investment learning that I have is the power of compounding interest. Again, learned from Warren Buffett. And so my portfolio is not sexy. It is quite boring. The Vanguard, index funds, S&P, betting on S&P. A lot of my investment is in that. I don't really do individual stocks just because I'm not a very strong investor. That's not my flow. I'm an entrepreneur. So I recognize that. But then I also have investments in mutual funds. I have a good friend who's actually on our advisory board. He's a 5-time founder. He's had over 200 million in exits from his companies. And so he and his brother have a fund, a venture fund. And so I'm a part of that. And that's been an incredible investment. And we're able to nurture these software companies, early startups, and seeing the growth, and in turn seeing my portfolio grow quite handsomely.
Very nice. So conservative, but a little risky with passion.
A little risky.
Yeah. Awesome. Cassandra, if our audience wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Find me on LinkedIn, Cassandra Worthy. Hit me up. Give me a follow, drop me a direct message. Would love to connect. I'm most active on that platform. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and my team handles a lot of my posts, but I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. And check out what we're up to at Change Enthusiasm. Go to changeenthusiasmglobal.com. Check out what the company is all about. If you want to learn about me and my keynote engagements and the things I'm doing around the world, just go to CassandraWorthy.com. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. It was an honor. Thank you so much for what you do and the light that you shine in the world. It's incredible. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Empower Her Money podcast. I am grateful for you. Please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, like this podcast, share it, subscribe, and let's keep teaching others how to take control and be empowered with their finances.